the piano with that hand, you little boy.
My principal called me a thief in front of 500 people. But at that moment, I didn't know how far it would go. All I knew was that everyone was staring at me, and nobody was on my side. My name is Preston Hayes. I was 12 years old when I learned that sometimes people don't need proof to decide who you are. I grew up in Greystone Gardens on the east side of Baltimore, the kind of place people only talk about when they're describing everything that went wrong in a city. My father had been in prison for as long as I could remember. My mother died before I turned 6, so it was just me and my grandmother, Loretta Hayes. She was small, quiet, and always tired, but never weak. She worked long shifts at a laundromat, folding clothes that didn't belong to her, breathing in heat and detergent all day just to keep the lights on at home. But no matter how exhausted she was, every morning at 5:30, she sat beside me and she taught me music. We didn't have a real piano. We had a cheap keyboard with missing keys and a speaker that buzzed if you pressed too hard. But to her, it didn't matter. Music is a language, she would say, and you're going to learn how to speak it better than anyone. At school, things were different. I wasn't the loud kid. I wasn't the funny one. I wasn't the one teachers bragged about. I was quiet. And for some reason, quiet made people uncomfortable. So they labeled me troubled, difficult, just like his father. It didn't matter that I did my work. It didn't matter that I stayed out of trouble. Once people believe something about you, they stop looking for anything else. And the person who believed it the most was Principal Whitmore. He didn't just think I would fail. He expected it. He looked at me like I was already a problem waiting to happen. One afternoon, he stopped me in the hallway. "You know where boys like you end up, right?" he said. I didn't answer. I had learned a long time ago that answering didn't change anything. He smiled anyway. "Same place your father is." That was the moment I understood something clearly. He wasn't trying to help me. He was waiting for me to prove him right. 3 days before the school assembly, something happened. A calculator went missing from one of the classrooms. Nothing expensive, nothing important. But by the end of the day, they said they found it in my locker. I didn't take it. I said that over and over. But nobody asked questions. Nobody checked anything. Because once you already fit the story, the truth doesn't matter anymore. By the next morning, the entire school knew. Whispers followed me down the hallway. People looked at me differently, like I had finally confirmed what they always believed. Teachers stopped giving me the benefit of the doubt. Students kept their distance. And Principal Whitmore? He looked satisfied, like everything was going exactly the way he expected. Then Friday came, Assembly Day. The gym was full. Students packed into rows of chairs. Parents filled the back section. Teachers lined the walls. The lights were bright. Everything felt normal. Too normal. I sat in the middle row, trying to stay invisible, trying to get through it without being noticed. For a while, it worked. There were speeches, awards, applause, the kind of program people forget as soon as it's over. Then Principal Whitmore stepped onto the stage. He took the microphone. "Today," he said, "we're going to talk about accountability." Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. Then he looked straight at me. "Preston Hayes, stand up." My heart started pounding, slow at first, then faster. Every head turned, every eye landed on me. I could feel it, the judgment, the curiosity, the quiet excitement of people about to watch something uncomfortable happen. "I hear you think you're a musician," Whitmore continued. A few students laughed. Not loud, but enough. He pointed toward the piano sitting on the stage. "Go ahead," he said. "Show us what a thief can do." This time, the laughter spread. Some people covered their mouths. Some shook their heads. Others just watched, waiting for me to fail. waiting for me to prove that everything they believed about me was true. And in that moment, standing there with 500 people staring at me, I realized something that hurt more than anything he said. Nobody was surprised. Nobody questioned it, because in their minds, this already made sense. And now, they were about to watch what happened next. I stood there for a second longer than I should have. My legs felt heavy, like they didn't belong to me anymore. My hands were already shaking, even though I hadn't moved yet. Part of me wanted to sit back down, pretend I didn't hear him, pretend none of this was happening. But something inside me knew that wasn't an option anymore. If I sat down, I would be proving them right in a different way. So I looked up, and that's when I saw her, my grandmother, sitting near the back. She didn't look panicked. She didn't look embarrassed. She just looked at me, calm, steady, certain. And then she gave me a small nod. That was it. No words, no gestures, just that one look. And somehow, it changed everything. I remembered every early morning, every time she sat beside me while the sun wasn't even up yet, every time she said, "Let your fingers do the talking." So I took a breath and I stepped forward. The gym was completely quiet now. Not the kind of quiet that feels safe, the kind that waits, the kind that expects something to go wrong. Each step toward the stage felt louder than it should have. I could hear my shoes against the floor. I could feel people watching me, judging me, measuring me. I reached the piano, sat down slowly. My hands hovered over the keys, still shaking. For a second, I almost froze again. But then I closed my eyes, and I whispered under my breath, "This one's for you, Grandma." The first notes came out soft, careful, almost uncertain. The room shifted slightly. A few people moved in their seats. Someone let out a quiet laugh. They thought this was it. They thought this was the moment I would fall apart. But then something changed. I stopped hearing them, stopped thinking about the room, stopped caring about what anyone expected from me, and I just played. Not for the students, not for the teachers, not for Whittemore. Just the truth. Every note carried something. The nights my grandmother came home too tired to eat, the silence of a house that felt too big and too empty, the weight of being judged before anyone ever asked who I really was, the anger I never showed, the pain I never explained. And as I kept playing, the room started to change. The laughter disappeared, the whispers stopped, the energy shifted. People leaned forward, teachers stood still, parents lowered their phones. No one was talking anymore. They were listening, really listening. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't need to. I could feel it. Even Whittemore had gone quiet. By the time I reached the final part of the piece, my hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, confident, certain, like they finally belonged to me again. I played the last note and let it ring. It echoed through the gym. Then everything went still, completely still. For one long second, no one moved, no one spoke. Then I heard it. One clap. I opened my eyes. My grandmother was standing, clapping slowly, proudly. Then another clap joined, then another, and suddenly the entire room rose. Applause filled the gym, loud, uncontrolled, real. Some people were cheering, some were crying, some were just staring at me like they were seeing me for the first time. And in that moment, I wasn't the quiet kid anymore. I wasn't the problem. I wasn't the boy they had already judged. I was something else, something they hadn't expected. I stood up slowly, turned toward the stage, and looked straight at Principal Whittemore. I didn't steal that calculator. The room quieted again. But even if I did, I paused. That piano knew the truth. He didn't say anything. He couldn't. For the first time since I had known him, he had no control over the room. A week later, the truth came out. Another student had planted the calculator in my locker. It wasn't even complicated. They just needed someone to blame, and I was the easiest choice. Whittemore was removed, quietly. No announcement, no apology, just gone, like none of it ever happened. 2 weeks later, something else happened. I got a scholarship, a real one, a music program that saw something in me that my own school never bothered to look for. They gave me a real piano, keys that worked, sound that didn't crack, something solid, something mine. But the moment I remember the most was when I got home that day. My grandmother looked at me and smiled. Not a big smile, not loud, just quiet, proud, like everything she had sacrificed finally meant something. And that's when I understood something I'll never forget. Some people will decide who you are before you ever speak. They'll hand you a broken stage and expect you to fail. But the truth always finds its voice. I went back to school the next week. Same hallways, same classrooms, but everything felt different. People looked at me differently, not with pity, not with suspicion, but with something I had never seen before: respect. Some of the same students who laughed that day couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. Teachers who ignored me suddenly had questions, and for the first time, I didn't need any of it, because I already knew who I was. And maybe that's the real victory. Not proving them wrong, but no longer needing their approval. So if you've ever been judged, misunderstood, or made to feel small, don't rush to defend yourself. Don't waste time explaining. Just prepare. Because when your moment comes, you won't need words. The truth will speak for you. And trust me, it always does. If this story meant something to you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated and then proved everyone wrong? Or are you still waiting for your moment? And if you want more stories like this, real stories about quiet strength, powerful comebacks, and moments that change everything, make sure you subscribe, because the next one might hit even harder than this.